After making the epic journey through Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, what do you think is next? Why, Dark Souls 3, of course. This playthrough was pretty interesting as it was kind of a story about redemption. Right before Elden Ring came out, I bought Dark Souls 3 and decided to check it out for myself. At the time, it was my very first Souls game, and let me tell you, it showed. I made it all the way to the Abyss Watchers after quite a rough time, then the typical beating that those guys give caused me to quit. I didn't know about the path behind the Crystal Sage, and I couldn't backstab to save my life. So after several how-to-beat guides, the Abyss Watchers only laughed in my face. Now with a new hope and much more knowledge on how Souls games work, it was time to pick up my lost souls and beat one of the greatest games of all time. Here is how I beat Dark Souls 3 for the first time. As I had beaten Dark Souls 1 with Dex and Dark Souls 2 with Strength, I thought, why not try Faith? I chose the Cleric, starting out with 16 Faith and 12 Strength. His mace is pretty darn good at the start, and I also took the Fire Gem for an additional early game boost. You can pretty easily tell I was somewhat familiar with the game, taking on the giant crystal lizard and winning right off the bat. This gave me a big ego boost, which I truly did not need and would surely get me into trouble eventually. Iudex Gundyr challenges us first, and more like we challenge him. He's easily parried, but I didn't want to make the game too easy, I guess, and I stuck to the old whack and dodge. Our good friend here is just too slow, and it's an easy win.
Why can't I, am I missing the spot? Easy, bro.
Finally, in Firelink's Shrine, we do the old naked tree jump for an additional Estus Flask Shard and the Silver Serpent Ring for our souls. This katana-wielding master destroyed me several times before I called upon gravity to even the playing field. In the High Wall of Lothric, we do the usual, grab some items, get munched on by a mimic, and unlock the shortcut, leading us to Vordt the Icy Beast. Considering how big this monster is, you'd think he'd be more of a challenge, but I guess the bigger butt you have, the easier it is to slap it. Also, the Dark Axe from the Mimic earlier was a pretty good find. No-hitting this beast had me pumped with the best start to a Souls run I had ever had.
Yeah, he's going down.
After talking to Emma and taking a quick ride from some old friends/enemies, we are now in Undead Settlement, promptly making our way to Yhorm, who will get us our first faith item here soon. The typical shenanigans ensue with big ladies stomping me, crystal lizards disappearing due to skill issues, and running away from scary stuff. We tactfully clear the spear field to get the Great Scythe, which is something else I should mention. Not only is this a faith build, but it's also a scythe build. I love the idea of such a weapon, and becoming the Grim Reaper was too much to pass up. For now, we upgrade the Great Scythe to +2, and get a free level from Yhorm to progress that quest. Made my way to the giant so he would stop spearing me from across the map, and got Onion Bro's help with the Fire Demon. I tend to almost kill things before dying. I don't know why I keep doing that, but it's just my thing, I guess. With a quick victory conversation and some valuable looting of rings, we make our way to the curse-rotted Greatwood, a massive egg sac-filled tree that confused the heck out of me when I fought him for the first time. With that knowledge in hand, however, he was a pushover. Just hit the egg sacs until they burst and get some free levels.
Only the middle left, which is the hardest one. And now he wants me to turn his back? That's crazy. Got me. Oh, wait, he didn't. What the heck? I thought he got me. I literally gave up. I saw him grab me. I'm going crazy. I cannot get this to break, man. Dude, did you guys see me give up? Like, I literally thought I died.
I forgot to mention, but I did free the little bandit guy, the pyromancer, and the blind chick. We'll need the blind lady for magic later on, but the rest are pretty much extra content, as I didn't do much else with them. I did manage to grab Pontiff's left eye from Vordt's soul, which is a ring, and fully leveled from Yhorm to kill the poor soul off. Which means Yuri shows up. She has the Londor Braille Divine Tome, which when given to the blind lady, sort of corrupts her. But we get a really cool miracle out of it, which lets me cover my blade in dark magic. So, totally worth it. Right before the swamp, we also grab Morn's ring for damage later on, and the Braille Divine Tome of Kareem. Give that to the blind lady as well for a miracle that lets you stay alive after one death blow. Not super useful as you still have no health after, but I used it several times to give me an extra chance in boss fights. And it stays active after resting at a bonfire to regain your FP. Now deep into the swamp, there are several things to do and grab. FromSoft loves to litter their deadly swamps with loads of loot. At what point do you stop putting a swamp in your games? That's the real question. Crystal Sage hides in these ruins along the side of the swamp, and considering she's not that aggressive of a boss, I should have been fine. Except, I actually suck at this boss. For whatever reason, I always die several times to flying magic. Considering it is one of the easiest boss fights in the game, this feels a bit sad. But with that lovely bleed from the scythe, she meets death eventually.
Almost dead. Let's try not to get greedy again like last time. There we go. Really is an easy fight, but I always have issues with some of the purple ones. They always kill me.
With a +3 scythe now, I head off into the Cathedral of the Deep. Luckily, I had a torch to deal with the leech monsters, but man does this area suck for when you need to be here. There are a crap ton of enemies, and it's an absolute maze for finding the elevators down to the bonfire. I was able to use the Dark Blade on my scythe now, giving us some really nice damage, but when you're easily confused by the environment, things tend to take a while. Eventually, I finally made it inside to find Lloyd's sword ring, but I got squished in the process. With the elevator shortcut, I scurried past the behemoth and killed a mimic for the symbol of avarice, which I should have used to farm the Corvian scythe, but never did. More on that later, trust me. Also, why did Elden Ring not have mimics? They're such an annoying but familiar feature for these games. Trap chests just weren't the same for me. Anyway, this massive death monster freaked me out as I had no idea it existed, and dying to it would have been such a haul to get back here. Honestly, the Cathedral's such a massive part of Dark Souls 3, I always forget how much there is to do here, and so early on, too. Giants to slay, creepy creatures to behead, and of course, Patches to get duped by. Which, funny enough, when you kill the giants beforehand, Patches will actually yell at you for ruining his trap. I thought that was a pretty fun little detail. With most of this area completed, it was time to face the Decons, which it's a pretty disappointing boss fight for how cool of an area this is. Regardless, this fight actually blocked my path for quite a while back when I was a noob. My second character, I went pyromancy and just couldn't do enough damage before the death magic dropped me on the spot. In this run, however, they were the typical joke that they're supposed to be. Something immediately notable about the scythe is that it's got both reach and fast attacks. So dealing damage doesn't actually put you in harm's way, and you can attack quick enough to push enemies back. Not the highest damage possible, no, but still a weapon with its own use. Once I located the main deacon and lured the others away from him, it was only a matter of time before the whole lot went to the afterlife.
Deacons of the Deep. Does that remind me of something?
Now, one quick side activity I decided to do was farm for the Corvian Scythe. This requires killing some flying wretch creatures before the swamp over and over. I grabbed the Crystal Sage Rapier from the boss souls, as well as reaching patches and the respec area for some coins. None of this mattered, however, as it just didn't seem time for this weapon to drop. Spent about an hour killing 2 enemies over and over and never got it. This did have me bummed a bit, but we still had a lot of the game left, so maybe, just maybe, it would eventually be mine. Apparently, the Chad of Kareem wasn't too fond of me corrupting that blind lady, and he kidnapped her. I get that I'm the bad guy in this situation, but that's not really gonna fly with me. With a quick rescue, we head back to the swamp to clear out an even deeper swamp. I hated this area the first go-around, but this time it was actually kind of fun. I avoided the giant tree monsters, which still freak me out to this day, and looted for quite some time. Again, why so much loot in a creepy, murky swamp filled with savage beasts? Lighting up 3 fires here will open the door towards Abyss Watchers, but first I needed to take on the Asylum Demon 2.0. I love how so much of this game can be skipped, and the parts that you come across by accident really feel special. This guy here gave me good nostalgia for Dark Souls 1, and even though he isn't a boss, it was fun to fight. Past this bridge is the Dragon Crest Shield and the Lightning Spear Miracle. I love this magic item after it was so much fun to use in Elden Ring. Sadly, it wasn't the right fit for my build, but I did play around with it regardless. Past the swamp, leaving behind giant crabs and demonic monsters, it was finally time for the Abyss Watchers. But funnily enough, I got this Storyteller's Staff to drop, an item that apparently destroys bosses with poison, according to others. Fun to get it dropped, but I tried to use it a few times and never got it to damage anything. So we'll chalk that up to another skill issue. But alas, it is time for the Abyss Watchers. The Noob Slayers, the Beginner Breakers, the Get Good Goons. After such a humiliating defeat at their hands before, I surely was not going to let it happen again. Okay, well, after buffing and then entering the fight, it was time to get the ultimate revenge. Such a fun boss fight that feels really easy once you've beaten it before. Pretty much first tried it this time, and the idea of it being a gimmick fight, but also fast and punishing, is such excellent boss design.
I'm really trying to get the backstab, and I can't get it. Got it. Nice. I don't know why I'm not dodging that. I dodge that every first try, but now I can't.
With the early game down, I had finished for the day at level 44 with 22 Vigor, 27 Faith, and only 14 Dex. Remember this for later, as I'm using a Dex weapon with the Dark Blade for extra damage. Pretty soon we'll need to really increase Dex or watch our damage fall dramatically. Inside the Catacombs of Karthus, we are finally to the point where I've not seen any of this before. Exciting yet terrifying at the same time. The maze-like area is filled with skeletons. Skeletons with swords, skeleton balls, and big skeletons. I managed to find a boss door, but got followed by 1,000 skeletons. Surprise. After dealing with my mistakes, I cut the bridge and climbed down for a fun time with a fire demon. I had attempted to get the Mimic to fight him, but that creature got demolished instantly. Instead, I dragged some lowly skeletons over and they took him on for me. I guess if you could play as a skeleton in Dark Souls 3, you might still be able to beat the game. At least if there were 6 of you, that is. Back above that cut bridge, we find ourselves up against High Lord Wolnir, a massive skeleton boss who takes incredible damage when you break the bracelets on his wrists. Unfortunately, he also smashes you pretty hard, and I died a few times against yet another easy boss. But, being the gimmicky lord that he is, it doesn't take too long to get good and bring the brute down.
What? I don't know what we're doing. Oh, okay. He did it, I think.
This bony boy's death brings us to the beautiful Erythial of the Boreal Valley. I mean, just look at this place. Wow. For now, however, I had this eerie feeling that I was gonna die here. so I went back down under the catacombs, stumbling upon one of my favorite areas in the game. You walk through this massive underground area, avoiding massive bolts being shot at you from a cliff. Then, a giant worm attempts to eat you and you die, over and over attempting to kill the thing with those bolts. There isn't really much here, but the sheer size of such an underground place is incredible. Not to mention here lies one of my favorite bosses from the game, Old Demon King. You really can't appreciate Dark Souls 3 without first playing Dark Souls. These demons keep popping up all over, and they seem to be the same ones from the original game. The Old Demon King is even more special because his boss fight has excellent mechanics. Slow attacks letting you attack enough, but take loads of damage from any hit. Then you have huge fire blasts, fire breath, and a summon fire hail ability that seems tough to avoid at first. The dead demons lying all around the arena bring you a sort of tragic story, and honestly this guy feels like the perfect massive boss. The battle took me quite a while of running around and being as patient as possible, but since the poor beast is old, he gives up in the end, and succumbs to the inevitable. Dark Souls really has me feeling bad for demons. I don't even know what's what anymore.
Okay, that would have been nice to know. Does he, like, lose all of his power at the end of the fight? That was weird.
Back in High Wall of Lothric, I wanted to take on the Dancer. We have had access to this boss since the beginning, but it's a pretty uphill battle. Unfortunately, that is still the case, and I could not pull off a win. I think somewhere near 20 tries had me rattled. So here we go back into Irithiel. Got spooked by a massive dog guarding the bridge, which by the way I don't remember getting any lore on. When did this giant dog come into play, and why are there a few more later on? I mean, small dogs are bad enough. I don't need them to be 3 times the size. While this castle is really beautiful, it's also full of dangerous enemies. After multiple deaths to knights, I just kinda roll spammed my way through, grabbing what I saw and reaching a bonfire. I have to admit this is a pretty memorable part of Dark Souls 3. Trudge through water fighting hairy monsters, meeting the Onion Bro for a hearty break, and opening a few shortcuts here and there. The place is filled with tough enemies, but no major upgrades for my build other than a couple pieces of Titanite. So here we find ourselves up against the first brick wall of the run. Pontiff Sulyvahn. One of my hardest boss fights in the game, and that includes the DLC. He must have killed me some 30 times while I tried to learn his moves and even parry for some cheesy tactics. Nothing worked. I eventually got his first phase down enough, but second was an instant loss every time. Many people have told me this boss was not bad for them, and I guess that's just the funny thing about Souls games. There's always a boss that feels off to you. And after finishing the entire game at this point, I could tell you, he was one of my least favorite bosses. I know, but I just had the worst experience with him. With that little tangent out of the way, no, I couldn't beat him. And unfortunately, this is one of those times where we're up against a rock and a hard place. Since Pontiff was not happening, I went to take on Dancer once again. And again, and again. Weirdly enough though, I was getting better at the Dancer each time, so it felt much better in comparison. Once I learned the value of rolling into attacks, it was a tough battle down.
Yes! Okay, there it was.
With my newfound love for the Dancer, as it's a great fight, I headed up the ladder to the back part of this castle. Almost everything here hits like a truck, and I did not really stick around much. 2 or 3 deaths had me dodging and weaving everywhere to find my precious Titanite, and also looking for cool stuff, of course. Right about now is when I realized, oh crap, dex weapons don't deal a lot of damage when you don't have a lot of dex. And the Dark Blade Miracle was starting to fall off in terms of usefulness. We will get a much better miracle later on, but that will be a while, and we need damage now. With only 14 dex still, I took on Oceiros, the Consumed King, and nope, I can't do this one either. Dang it, I really felt stuck once again. 2 hard bosses with nowhere else I could go. That is until I found the dungeon. What can I say about the Erythiel dungeon? I guess that it sucks, with a capital S. There are a lot of these shortcuts you need to open, and each is surrounded by ladies with brands who zap away all of your health in seconds. I tried to explore every nook and cranny for a while, but all the floors started looking the same, and I kept getting turned around. Faced up against giants, mimics, basilisks, rats, caged freaks, and you name it, this place had it. Eventually, I made it towards the end, but still got killed by morphed head creatures. I apparently missed an NPC here because I really felt overwhelmed with all this stuff I had to fight through. And with all that, I'd probably consider this the worst area in the entire game. But now on to the profaned capital, where the beloved ladder guy perished. Remember him? From Dark Souls 2? Gilligan, if I remember correctly? Turns out he had a heyday here, and there are ladders everywhere. This area wasn't too bad. It's pretty much just a maze, and the poison was annoying, but I didn't hate it. Sadly, however, we would accidentally mess up the Onion Bros quest here, which I found out about all too late. Jumping into a hole in the wall allows us to free the Chad and gain a Titanite slab from him. Lovely upgrade, but for him to progress in the quest, you need to talk to him from outside the cell where a giant and infinite rats await you. This area has an elevator which leads to a bonfire close by. However, after running through, I completely forgot to go back to kill the giant, and thus forgot about this area entirely. If you know anything about this, then you know I went to fight Yhorm the Giant next, and Siegmeyer was not there. He shows up in a cutscene, but for me, he rotted away in his cell because these quests are so hard to do without a guide. But then again, that's just the way it is. I did manage to find the Lightning Blade spell back in the dungeon. Like I said, that place is just confusing as heck, but I do remember jumping off an elevator to get it. Yhorm, of course, is a fight similar to something from both Demon Souls and Elden Ring. You grab a weapon inside the arena and use its weapon art to send high damage wind across the room. This is the most effective way to kill Yhorm, and honestly, these always seem pretty fun to me. Getting an OP weapon all of a sudden for no real reason other than why not? Awesome fight that I, of course, couldn't do first try. I mean, that would just look too easy.
Doing it again. I got the attack off. Huh. Made that look a lot harder than it is.
Finally, after all this time in the game, I began to level my dex. Sitting at 30 faith for the Lightning Blade, I'm just now trying to boost my damage from the Scythe. I like to create my own challenge, I guess. The game clearly isn't hard enough otherwise. Afterwards, I goofed off with some boss rewards for a bit. Easily one of Dark Souls 3's best features, as they made boss items extremely cool in this game. Rings, shields, weapons, and some items with ridiculously awesome weapon arts. Now with the Lightning Blade in hand, my damage was much better against Pontiff. He was still a jerk, and I had to parry his first phase to get the job done, but finally I was able to instantly kill his ghost and make it a fair fight. I definitely raged a bit here, as the delayed overhead swing Pontiff has hurts my soul just talking about it. Finally, it was time to kick this dude's butt and make a break for the rest of the game.
See, that's why people say his boss ain't that bad. You can get the parry in, it's a very quick kill, honestly. Problem is these attacks right here, man. These are so difficult to read. And when there's two of them, it's like... That one right there specifically, I have never been able to dodge once. All it took. You gotta parry the beginning. Gotta parry the beginning, man. Oh my word.
The next area turned out to be one of my favorites. I had a lot of fun killing some invaders, taking on 2 monster dogs, and getting the good old Ring of Favor. I took a break for a bit to go back near the boss room with the old Demon King. Smoldering has a crap ton of demons, both dead and alive. Loads of fire and death everywhere. Not one of the easiest areas in the game, and the invader here is rough, to say the least. I thought this place might have a boss too, but I just ended up turning off the massive crossbows from earlier. Wheelie skeletons make their appearance, I guess, but overall this place seemed like a giant nod to Dark Souls 1. Back in Anorlando 2.0, we parkour across the castle fighting Silver Knights. Again, an area ripped straight out of Dark Souls 1. Same place, different time. Sad about the giant blacksmith, that one really got me. Instead of the glorious Ornstein and Smo fight, we enter the arena of Aldrich, Devourer of Gods. And I did almost die in this battle, like several times. But being a very slow magic caster, she wasn't all that bad. Or he, more likely, since the head of this creature looks a lot like another boss from the first game who was actually a male. I don't know, lore's pretty cryptic for me, but this fight was pretty fun. Finally one that I got to do first try, and it gave me a good challenge, which I always enjoy.
Oh dear. No, I got greedy. We all saw it. Oh my word, with this magic damage, it just does a lot. Woo! Finally a boss I did first try.
Remember Oceiros from earlier? The big blue dragon that's sort of hidden back behind the dancer? Well, I figured it was time we finish that fight up. This battle's pretty difficult as our friend here has fast attacks and is constantly distracting me with his screams. The area is big enough to move around in, but sometimes when bosses swing around wildly, it's hard to read what you're supposed to do. Luckily, this fight here can be greatly simplified by sticking to his rear or back legs.
What is this guy's deal? He just wants to run away from you the entire fight. Look at this! I am hitting right through him, it's not hitting him. Holy cow.
Behind this arena is a secret dark reality of sorts. It's Firelink Shrine, but not Firelink Shrine. We grab the Path of the Dragon emote for a secret area later and move on into the Abyss. This is where things started to get a bit funny. Remember earlier how I was farming those monsters for a cool scythe? Well, there's a few of them right here near the entrance. I killed this guy one time and boom, dropped the Great Corvian Scythe. Couldn't get this from farming for hours, but random encounter? Absolutely. Champion Gunry blocks our path, and he's a much more powerful version than his original. Fast attacks that hit hard and cover a wide radius. Kicks that come out of nowhere and knock you on your butt. While this fight was pretty rough at the start, it quickly became one of my favorites. Gives the first tutorial boss more recognition, and honestly, it's all about patience. You get one or two attacks in here and there, and then wait for all his gotcha moves to be over. I died once or twice, but with the lengthy hits from my scythe, it was in the bag.
Oh, come on. Boom. This was one of the easiest bosses for me to read, man. I just got it.
Hidden away, we grab the Coiled Sword Fragment, allowing us to teleport back to Firelink whenever we like. Back in the dungeon, we head over to this outlook staring dead ahead at some mountains. use the dragon emote we got a little bit ago, and free teleport to another secret area. The secret areas and bosses in Souls games is what really makes them pop. There's just something special about reaching a new part of the world that no one was meant to find but you. Archdragon Peak is not all that different from Farum Azula in Elden Ring. It's got plenty of dragons, and the enemies here look similar as well. Although they do seem to be a mix between the snakes in Dark Souls 1 and the peons in Farum Azula. Kinda neat to play this after the other two games. The enemies here are tough, but I have a lot of health at this point, and the damage is looking pretty solid. Jumped on a dragon's head, insta-kill, which begs the question, why don't we just jump onto dragon's heads every other time we meet them? Seems pretty effective. Regardless, this place was a lot of fun. Challenging for sure, but managed to find all kinds of goodies and upgrade my Corvian Scythe to a +8. After meeting Havel, who feels immortal at this point, we stumble upon the last upgrades to get our weapon to +10, with a sharp gem for even better dex scaling. Now we're in a really good spot. If only I had known that every boss from here on out was tough as nails. Nameless King. The likely son who fled to the safety of his dragons way up here in the mountains. The fight has two phases. First, a wyvern or dragon flies around while the knight on his back attacks you with a lance-like spear. Lightning attacks have some large AoE, and you only really want to hit the pet's head to deal any damage. I honestly had enough trouble with the first phase. The arena's massive, which I'll say is great. Plenty of room to move around, and learning his attacks is much easier when you aren't staring at a pillar or wall. After many tries, the first phase eventually became a repetitive game. Get in, get out, and hit the dragon's head as effectively as possible. The lightning attacks of his seem impossible to dodge until you learn to run towards the beast early on. Tough fight so far, but not too bad. Then of course we have the second phase, and let me tell you, this one was rough. I died instantly more times than I care to count, and it felt like I was back at the beginning of the game with no upgrades. The Nameless King is highly aggressive with fast attacks. Some delayed, some not delayed, giving you anxiety and a touchy dodge finger. It's safe to say I spent a few hours here, but something different happened. Where at Pontiff I hated his guts by the end, I started to really love the Nameless King. Dark Souls 3 does this spectacle and lore factor so well that even when a boss tears you apart for hours, you eventually get addicted to the fast-paced combat. For a while, I had to say this was the best fight in the game. I mean, it's masterful, with the wind going everywhere and the unstoppable force you get to take down. I'd find out later that one boss in particular overshines our beloved Nameless King, but he's personally my second favorite boss in this game. Amazing fight.
Gosh darn it. Yeah! Let's go! Let's go! We did it, boys! We did it, boys!
Now, before I beat the Nameless King, I actually went back to the main game because he was giving me such a fit. But this seems like a good order to talk about him in. Dragonslayer is protecting the way to the next castle, and again, this is another massive spectacle fight. Huge heavy attacks come at you from both a shield and a lightning axe. Weird creatures throw red balls of death at you randomly, and it's pretty fast-paced. Yet again, these bosses were luring me into the Souls mindset. Such amazing fights with great atmosphere. Dragonslayer will forever be an S-tier boss.
Easy, bro.
Now at level 80 with 30 faith, 31 dex, and 27 vigor, it is time to take on Lothric Castle. A challenging area as usual, but one of the best in the series. You need to cover your head in candle wax so these blue hands won't grab you. Multiple shortcuts can be opened up back to the bonfire, fight gargoyles and NPC enemies who don't quite understand the power of a scythe. Get wrecked, you nerds. Finally leading us up to a massive staircase which holds Lorian and Lothric, the princes of this beautiful castle. First phase is pretty simple. Don't get hit by the fire sword and avoid getting hit by massive light trails shooting across the arena. It's important to not suck up too many of your flasks or you won't survive the second phase. Lothric then decides to join in on the fun and protect his brother with magic, bringing the brute back to life and forcing you to pay attention to multiple things at once. I also love this fight, although it did take me a few tries to get used to the attacks. Second phase is nice because you can attack both princes every time you hit, and once the younger brother's dead, it's all over. And I am so bad at hitting that attack. After going back to defeat the Nameless King at this point, I did manage to get my hands on a new weapon, the Dragonslayer Sword Spear. A golden weapon which deals lightning damage from afar and buffs itself in the process. Great reach and fantastic damage. Didn't quite fit my build perfectly, but it would come in handy later on when we get stuck in the DLC. Just trust me, this item saved my butt. Now at this point I had a few hours left of playing still for that day and I decided to head over to the DLC. First up is the ice area. Back in the Cathedral of the Deep, we speak to a red-hooded man and then touch his painting. The ice region is massive, much bigger than I expected. Fought my way through wolves, trees, mercenaries, and bladed cretins of death you should completely avoid at all costs. Most of my time here was spent walking around figuring out where the heck to go and cutting my way through all the sickness and death. Well, let's talk about the bosses. There are two here with an extra invader battle I came back at the end to finish off. Sister Friede was impossible, so we first tried to take down the Champion's Gravetender, a boss hidden in the back of this region behind some roots and a load of flowers. Here we kill a very annoying NPC enemy while also fighting wolves. Wolves, dogs, you get the picture, they suck. The boss has this jumping thrust attack which you must roll out of, and it's a pretty decent battle until near the end. As the guy's about to die, he summons a giant wolf to also attack you. Don't finish the dude off quickly enough, and both will spam attack you into oblivion. So finishing the guy's a must, but then what about the wolf? Oh, he's aggressive. Very aggressive. And while our damage is good, he moves so far when he attacks that it's really hard to get hits in. I struggled for a bit getting instantly killed or getting really close and still losing. Frost is a monster in this game as it builds up quickly and takes massive chunks away from your health. I raged about that for a while, but eventually had an excellent run and finished the beast off. Whatever I just did worked. Oh, not till now. Are you kidding me? Wow, why did that work so well? Now, of course, we have Sister Friede, the innocent lady in the church who decides to murder you when you touch some more stuff. Wow, did I hate this fight. I did worse in this battle than anywhere else in the game. She does insane amounts of damage while turning invisible and charging you with a scythe much more powerful than my own. I tried a variety of weapons to no avail, ultimately sticking to the Corvian scythe as I was the most used to it. Once I had finally defeated this accursed lady, she summons the ogre in the back and you fight both her and him at the same time, which leads to more frustration as one deals fire and the other deals frost. It's a mess, and avoiding damage is really close to impossible. Finally, after finishing off both phases, it's time to put her to Nope, there's a third phase. A phase in which you fight Sister Friede again, but now she uses Black Flame. It's easy to stunlock her here, but on your own, it's also easy to let her get away and come back to destroy you in seconds. I gave this one plenty of tries, but ultimately had to summon Gael. He'll only appear in the second phase and third if you keep him alive. This was one of those bosses I just could not wait to get over with, and with Gael's help, things finally went my way.
I think he's dead now. Oh, thank goodness, dude. No chance I'm doing that without Gael, dude. No chance.
Now, this boss was awful, but we do get her great scythes for all our suffering. This item deals frost damage, making it destroy enemies, and its weapon art spams 2 scythes over and over, decimating everything in its path. Probably one of the coolest weapons I got my hands on, and used for quite a bit in the DLC. Friede's death gains us access to the Dreg Heap, a very confusing area in terms of layout. Buildings lie all over the place on their sides and in ruins. Giant angels shoot rays of doom at you, and there's a massive poison swamp with loot everywhere. This area seems quite small, all things considered, and I think there were only one boss. But boy was it an epic fight. Jump off this ledge here into a massive pit. Down here we are met by 2 demons. The one in pain and the other from below. Here is where the scythe completely failed me. The idea here is to attack one of the demons as they melee, while the second one spews poison at you. This lets you focus better since dodging 2 separate enemies' melee attacks is pretty difficult. But the scythe does almost no poise damage. Through the entire run I rarely poise broke anything, which is supposed to give you a lot of damage from a riposte. Without this, the dual demon fight is ridiculously hard. You're too easily hit by poison, and there's no way to do anything with both monsters rushing you. This led me to the Astora Greatsword. I'd had this at a +8, getting it way back in the Cathedral of the Deep. I was able to use it decently with Dex, and its attacks actually had some really nice animations. This weapon was perfect for the demons, being able to poise break them often, giving me excellent riposte damage, and with Lightning Blade, the 2 went down smoothly. Now at level 90 with 27 Vigor, 40 Dex, and 30 Faith, this would bring me to the one and only Ringed City. The pinnacle of world design, and again, more enemy variety to top off that sweet sundae with a beautiful red cherry. Danger awaits us at every corner here. Giants with massive weapons, tall creatures summoning hordes of archers, a Dragonslayer copycat, knights with the sun printed on their chest, and spin-to-win jerks, who I crossed more than once. Another crazy area with loads of loot, secrets, and puzzles to find my way through. But you can't talk about the Ringed City without bringing up the bosses. First we have Halflight, Spear of the Church, probably the easiest DLC boss ever as it's just a dude with lots of cool weapons. Then we have the biggest and most epic dragon fight in the history of Souls games, Darkeater Midir. Hidden inside an elevator and down inside a cavern, he awaits. A dragon, completely corrupted by darkness, who attacks you relentlessly, giving you very little room to breathe. I put, I think, about 2 to 3 hours in here, finally getting it down and then dying to the stupid beam attack that never seems fair. But alas, I had forgotten about my secret. For the Nameless King had given me his weapon, and what does it have? Lightning damage.
Oh, let's do some melee. Oh, what are we aiming for his freaking foot? Lame. I want to be close on this, I think. Wait a minute, wait a minute.
Okay, okay. We gotta be careful here. Alright.
Yeah, baby! Come on, boys! Let's go!
Now we come to the last two bosses in Dark Souls 3, the final DLC boss and the final boss of the game. In the end of the Ring City, far out atop the sand and corpses, lies Slave Knight Gael, the absolute pinnacle of gaming, the single best boss in the Souls series and by far the greatest feat in Dark Souls 3. This battle is tough and has multiple phases, but it's designed so well you can't help but fall in love. The sequences of attacks they gave this monster are just insane, and I don't think I'll ever get a better feeling than taking on this red-caped crusader. Here is the full freaking fight, because screw it, I'm not cutting something so amazing.
I feel like I'm doing pretty good, but there's just a few attacks I keep getting hit by. I really need to start avoiding. What are we doing so far away, buddy? Oh, come on. Don't give me some time to heal here. Okay, here we go. We're 8 hours deep last time. You needed a break? Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, this one he does ranged attacks. We want to dodge to the side. I knew it, and I just did it anyway, but that's fine. Oh, all right, buddy. We're gonna do a little bit of bogusness here, huh? I see, I see. Gotta have enough stamina to dodge once after he does all that. Ooh. There we are. Range is so nice for that. He always does that. Very annoying. Now for the hard part. Three attacks. Don't know what he does now. Assuming nothing pretty. Oh no. Oh, please save me here. I'm getting stuck here. Tell me that's the end.
Oh, yeah, baby.
With the DLC taken care of and everything else in order, it was time to complete Dark Souls 3 with the Souls of Cinder. Another great boss who has loads of moves. He pulls out multiple different weapons during the fight, and his combo moves still haunts my nightmares. I had plenty of trouble here for several tries, and the second phase seemed oddly easier than the first. But the Corvian Scythe never let me down, and with one last obstacle to go, I couldn't give up.
Stressing me out because as far as I gotten, you know? So in my head. Uh-oh. I think I'm dead. No, maybe not.
So there is the complete journey of my first time beating Dark Souls 3. This is probably my favorite Souls games in terms of boss design and weapons. The DLCs were immaculate, getting me to both rage and laugh at my own pitfalls. Yeah, I'd say this was well worth my time. It's no surprise people have loved this game as much as they have, and it's as close to perfect as I think you can get. Thanks to all of you who watched this and for those who made it to the live playthrough. I'm already itching to play the game again because boy was this something. Have a great day or night wherever you are, and don't forget to praise the sun.